Captain Forest here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who would win more often than not in an equal stats situation. Dex-Starr from DC Comics versus Morgana from Persona 5. Now if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for the content. Also shouts to Coffee Shop Gang, they make awesome content. Their links will be in the description. Also shouts to the HQ squad, massive shouts to the team, they've been a huge help in my videos. But yes, I'm going to go ahead, start off with Dex-Starr to see what this ferocious feline rages to the table. So in order to understand some things, I will need to first talk about the Red Lantern ring and what it grants the user. So as we all know, with becoming the Red Lantern, taking the ring off will kill the user. The user's anger and rage charges up the ring and also increases their attack potency. Like the other rings, the Red Lantern rings have information analysis, which informs the user of any abnormalities and also warns the user of any specific dangers, such as detecting cellular toxicity from kryptonite, which was damaging Supergirl's cells. The ring can also translate different languages, it can detect different types of energies from far away, and can also open up a portal. The ring can also detect other lanterns and also analyze if their opponents are hostile. The Red Lantern ring allows the user to fly and create force fields and survive in space. A Red Lantern's blood is replaced with napalm-like plasma substance, which the user can project this napalm substance and use it as a weapon. Dex-Starr himself has demonstrated to project this substance, which instantly vaporizes the opponent upon contact. Red Lanterns are able to obtain inherent abilities from others via licking their blood. Dex-Starr licked Rancor's blood, which gave him the ability to create constructs, as that was the inherited power that Rancor possessed. Dex-Starr's also demonstrated some unique showings with his constructs, such as creating a giant cat paw construct to smash through objects. Dex-Starr is proficient with his constructs, he can create giant constructs and can shape them to copy a person. Dex-Starr can also create an animal construct to fight his opponents, and Dex-Starr can also apply battle armor to his body via constructs. Dex-Starr can create a giant construct of his own face to attack his opponents, and he can also seal his opponents inside a red barrier, which is pretty impressive. Dex-Starr can also create a giant paw construct and use it to destroy Rancor's constructs, which is pretty impressive. And also to note, the napalm in the Red Lantern's blood heals their injuries, so that would mean that Dex-Starr would have an accelerated healing factor, which is pretty impressive. Now, another thing to note is that reading a Red Lantern's mind is very bad, because Martian Manhunter himself received a nasty feedback from reading Atrocitus's mind. Even later on, Martian Manhunter was still rattled and was experiencing nightmares. A Red Lantern user and their mind and all the memories are literally just filled with complete unfiltered rage and vengeance and pain and anger, which is very overwhelming even for telepaths like Martian Manhunter. This would also be an inherent resistance for all of the Red Lanterns, including Dex-Starr, as all their minds are fueled by rage. That is the primary function that keeps these Red Lanterns going. Now, more in character wise, Dex-Starr is very vicious, he's sadistic and psychotic. He is a crazy cat that likes to feast upon his opponents after ripping his opponents apart with his claws, and he likes to play with their body parts such as their eyeballs. I know, pretty crazy. So that's going to round up Dex-Starr. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Morgana and see what this persona brings to battle. Morgana wields the persona called Zorro, which is his standard persona he starts off with. Zorro utilizes a lot of wind-based attacks via wind manipulation. There are some wind-based attacks that Zorro uses in combat, such as the move called Garu and the strongest version called the Garudine, which is a powerful green whirlwind that wraps around the opponent, causing them strong wind damage. Mega Rundine targets multiple foes, which traps multiple enemies inside the whirlwind, doing damage to them. Windbreak nullifies resistances to wind-based attacks. Miracle Punch is a physical skill that attacks the opponent. It also stuns the enemy and causes a knockdown. Morgana knows a healing skill called Meteorahon, which heals him and his allies. Another thing to mention, Morgana's persona has another form which evolves called Mercurus. I'm going to stick with Zorro, as there really isn't much to cover for Mercurus and Diego, as Mercurus and Diego are just stronger and more impressive than Zorro in terms of stats, and since it's equal stats, any and all amps in terms of AP and speed will be null and void, so there won't be any increases or layers or any of that. It defeats the whole purpose of equal stats if we do that. But anyway, lastly, Morgana's persona knows the move called Debilitate, weakens the attack potency, durability, and it also affects the opponent's accuracy, and it makes it difficult for them to evade attacks. It just lowers their stats, which is pretty impressive. Lastly, I've mentioned this before in previous videos, but the personas themselves are conceptual and abstract. Ren was able to summon the true power of his persona and defeated Yaldabaoth, and the Phantom Thieves all took part in this shared effort of defeating Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is an abstract being that was created from the masses' collective unconscious, as Yaldabaoth governs and administrates the metaverse, which is described by Yusuke to be the physical embodiment of the desire of the human heart, as humanity yearns for their desires to be granted and to be ruled over. As Yaldabaoth governs and holds domain over man and answers to their desires, and even humanity itself wishes to be ruled over by him. So even the palaces themselves and mementos are conceptual and contain platonic archetypes. The Personaverse in general has shown to have many connections to Jernigan psychology, and instances of it applying to the cosmology. Jernigan archetypes are a form of platonic concepts and act as them, which are infinite in amount, comprising the collective unconscious, allowing it to transcend time and space, being transspatial and transtemporal in nature, acting as an idea or a perfect idea of a concept, like the Great Mother archetype that acts as the perfect and ideal traits of a mother and what a mother should have. The collective unconscious is stated to be a dimensionless realm under Jung's work, should also be comparable to the origin bow and the quintessence bow, which are platonic concepts. So pretty much Morgana has conceptual attacks. His attacks affect you on a conceptual level in shorter terms. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of his equipment and talk about what also Morgana brings in terms of his other utilities. So Morgana wields different types of bandit swords. They each contain different hexes depending on the sword. Morgana carries a blade called Tawa, which basically, if the blade attacks and basically hits the opponent and causes damage, it has the chance to make the opponent confused. It can discombobulate the opponent and basically mess up and affect their combat efficiency. He also has the sleep blade, which puts them to sleep if they're cut by it. So some sleep hacks, and the Cosmoplasma sword, which paralyzes foes upon contact, and the blood scimitar puts the opponent in despair if cut by it. And as I mentioned before, all of these attacks, they all affect you on a conceptual level, and also these abilities will affect you on such a level too. Morgana's sword also deals wind damage, and he can also spin his sword around, producing a whirlwind attack. Morgana also carries his signature slingshots, so he's never lacking in combat. The slingshot called Utopia is a slingshot that if the pellets hit you, it causes amnesia, making you forget how to use your own weapons and abilities. And Catnap, which basically has pretty much sleep-inducing hacks. So if Catnap, any of those pellets hit you, it's night-night for you. And all of the other Phantom Thieves have conceptual Type 8 immortality. The idea of the Phantom Thieves were erased from existence from the minds of the masses as they were denied existence. They were returned alive back in the Velvet Room and had to reobtain their existence again and become recognized by the public, and literally just jump back into the battlefield after they came back. So that's going to round up both Dex-Starr and Morgana. I'm going to go ahead, give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a equal stats situation. Okay, so looking at both these combatants in terms of an equal stats situation, now of course AP and speed is completely irrelevant based off it being equal stats. Now they both have win cons. Dex-Starr, he has his napalm blast. He can also vomit. That napalm blast, if that touches Morgana, that's gonna one-shot him. That stuff literally vaporizes you. You can argue some like atomic destruction potentially, but if that napalm blood, if that does touch Morgana, he's done for. That could be a huge issue, especially with the constructs that Dex-Starr can create. Those constructs are pretty menacing, and he can create armor. He can create different types of other constructs based off his mind and what he would do in character as a feline, as a cat. And of course in character, Dex-Starr is pretty ferocious. He's very barbaric, he's very sadistic, and he fights with rage in his heart. so he's going to definitely dart towards Morgana and try to rip him apart, play with his eyeballs, and do all types of weird, bizarre things. However, Morgana, he has a lot to play with in this fight. Morgana has his versatility also, so he can also match those constructs. He has his pellets, so he could destroy those constructs with his slingshot pellets. Also, Morgana does have a lot of hexes too, so if Dex-Starr is not careful and Morgana blasts him with a pellet, or if he hits Dex-Starr with one of those hexy swords, that could be a huge issue. The feline could be very dizzy, or it could fall asleep, and then that's pretty much GG. And also, those hexes and attacks affect you on a conceptual level, so the type of attacks that Morgana is dishing out is pretty fundamental, and if those hit Dex-Starr, I think that's pretty much GG. I don't really see what Dex-Starr can do against such a nasty type of hacks, and these nasty conceptual hexes. I think they're pretty dirty. Especially, he would have to worry about Morgana's persona, of course, depending on which one you use. So Zoro or Diego, they also have the wind-based attacks. The conceptual wind attacks could be an issue, and if Morgana starts to see the aggressive side of Dex-Starr, which could be a huge issue that might press him. Morgana also has access to hexes that could debilitate the opponent, so debuff. If he hits Dex-Starr with that, Dex-Starr is going to be at a stat disadvantage. He's going to be weaker. Granted, yes, equal stats, but still, that doesn't mean your stats can't be affected. So he can get weak. So if that does hit Morgana, his AP will be drastically down. His speed will go down. Even if it's unquantifiable, we know that it would be unquantifiably lower, and it would pretty much put Dex-Starr in a pretty difficult situation if his stats or his other senses or ailments that are applied to Dex-Starr, that is going to screw him over. And if that becomes a big factor in the fight, I definitely see Morgana just going in. He'd have the advantage in the stats because obviously he would still basically be above him, and he'd basically get in there, chop his head off, one shot, GG. So overall, based off what I've seen in terms of hexes, I have to give victory to Morgana. He's way too hexy. The conceptual fundamental attacks really hit home, and they give him a huge edge in this fight. Morgana has many ways to deal with Dex-Starr's aggression and his attacks and his constructs. He could just combat them with his pellets. He could keep it out of range. He could just keep firing pellets. Those pellets hit, that's going to be a big massive issue for Dex-Starr, especially if he hits the debilitate and starts to weaken Dex-Starr, because that would be an issue. If he gets hit with any of those like debuffs, then Dex-Starr is going to literally be playing at a disadvantage. He's not going to be playing at the same level. He's going to be weaker, he's going to be slower, and he's going to be defenseless in a way. So more often than not, I have to give victory to Morgana. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But yeah, it's been real. See you guys in the next one. Peace.